Hi, my name is Scott Seaton. I'm the music director of the North State Symphony, and this is another edition of Musician Accents, a series that we've created to help you get to know better the musicians that are in the North State Symphony. And I have a very special guest today. With me is Assistant Concertmaster Li-Yuan Ho. And welcome, Li-Yuan. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you, Scott?
I'm doing great, considering that I'm stuck at home a lot, but it could be worse, I suppose.
Yeah, same here. I understand.
So it's been several months since the symphony has been able to meet in person. Our last concerts were in February and March with our Masterworks 3 and our youth concerts. But how have you been holding up since then? Have you been doing a lot of online work? What have you been doing to stay sane through all of this?
Well, not very much. I have, for one thing, I really miss playing with people together on stage or rehearsals. But since that's not happening, um, there's nothing I can do about that. But I have been teaching continuously, mostly online, actually pretty much all online for a couple months, 2 months also.
That's a lot of online teaching.
Yeah, well, I don't have that many students to start with, so probably 9 to 10 students. And it was a new challenge for me because I've never taught online in my life. So that was something new to me. But I got used to it, and I found some pros and cons of teaching online. But I think my students are more aware of what's going on when I'm telling them, because they have to kind of stop, listen to me, and then figure out what I'm saying.
Right.
And so that was one good thing. They are more aware and more focused that way. But that was, I guess, it's I guess it doesn't matter how old you are, you learn something new all the time, and that was a good thing, actually. Other than that, yes. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that online teaching certainly has a lot of challenges, I imagine. I can only imagine, especially going, from let's say a large classroom of students to having to transition that into an online format. I think at least, us as musicians already have that sort of one-on-one structure in place, which makes it, I think, hopefully a little bit easier to make those adjustments. But nonetheless, I'm sure you've gone through a slew of things that you've had to figure out and reinvent along the way. And hopefully you won't have to do it for too much longer.
Well, yeah, let's hope not. But it is nice to get to know the technology is a little bit better than before.
Right.
So my daughter and my son had taught me a lot.
Oh, they did. Great.
Yeah.
And your kids are how old?
One is 18, going to college. She just graduated from high school, and the other one is 13, going on 8th grade.
And how many musicians do you have in your family?
3. Maybe my 2. Are you talking about my immediate family here?
Well, sure, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm a musician. I'm a professional musician. Both my kids, I don't think they're going to go into music, but I make sure that they learn piano. And my daughter also learned cello for a couple of years, but I think she's more into singing now. She does cover songs, she does tuning, mixing, all on her own. And that's something that I think the classical piano training has helped her a lot on, her ears. It's very well trained. She can fine tune things. My son just picked up trumpet. So, however, I don't think they'll have band class in the fall. So he just have to practice at home and take lessons. But hopefully.
Have you all been able to do any sort of small chamber music type things as a family?
Not as a family, no.
Maybe someday.
Maybe someday. Yeah. However, I just played in a chamber music reading session with 3 other people this morning. We were sitting all like 8 foot apart, and everyone's wearing masks. It was a Sheridan's house, actually.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of fun. I haven't really played with anybody for months, so that was a treat.
Well, that's great that you are all comfortable enough to experiment with that right now, and especially as we go into the next few months, chamber music and trying to get our passion and our love of music out to our North State audience is going to be the next challenge, and hopefully we can get through it together.
Yeah.
I just want to quickly acknowledge a few very important people, and that is Lee and Judy Salter, which are your chair sponsors, and of course, wonderful people and part of a larger group that the symphony, just a group of invaluable supporters of the North State Symphony, and we give a huge thanks to them, and for any of those who are curious, if there are opportunities to become a chair sponsor, please check out our website, northstatesymphony.org. And any one of our musicians who do not currently have a chair sponsor will show on the musicians page. So please check that out, because we would love to have more love and support in our family.
Yeah, definitely.
And so let's start with a very basic question, which is, how long have you been a member of the North State Symphony?
Actually, since I moved to Reading, which was 2003.
Okay. So in the symphony's 3rd year, you became part of it, and at that time, were you assistant concertmaster at that point, or was that something that happened later?
It happened later. In fact, I actually sent in a video to the conductor then, Kyle. Mm-hmm. As an audition before I moved here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I contacted him because I was looking for jobs before I come here.
Of course.
And then he asked me to send a video to him. And then, so I got in. When I got here, I think it was fourth stand outside. Mm-hmm. And then a year later, our assistant concertmaster then moved to another state. So there was an opening, and I took an audition and got the job.
Great. Well, it's certainly so great to have you. And then a couple years into my tenure, you took a year and you went overseas. But and then that was what, 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
I've been back for 2 years, so
okay.
3 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's your symphony background. Let's go even farther than that. So how did you get started in music, and when did you pick up the violin?
That was a question that many people ask me for. Well, I'm from Taiwan, and so I have 2 older sisters. So my parents did not have the means to study music very long. They both kind of studied a little bit. My dad played a little bit of piano and trumpet, and my mom played piano and my dad also played a little violin. My mom played a little bit of piano. Basically, that's pretty much it. So they were hoping their kids will learn music. So both my 2 older sisters, they started piano when they were young. Mm-hmm. My older sister is about 6 years older than me, and then the next one is about 4 years older than me. So when they were learning piano, I had the privilege of listening to them practicing and crying every day in front of the piano. So when I was about 5.5 or 6, one day my mom called me from work. She said, "Do you want to pick up an instrument?" was like, sure. And she said, do you want to learn violin or piano? Those were the two only choices she gave me. And I had no idea what violin was at that time. I just thought there was nothing in the world that's more difficult than piano. Since both my sister were crying all the time when they were practicing because they didn't want to be there. It's like, there's no way I'm going to play piano. Whatever violin is, it's got to be easier than piano.
Right.
So I chose violin. That's how I got little did I know, violin is a very difficult instrument to learn. But I stuck with it.
When did you know that you wanted to be a musician?
I guess there'd be several times in my life, and then I kept changing my mind. So when I was growing up in Taiwan, I was in one of those music department since first grade. So the entire class of students were music students. So I had the environment of growing up with all the music colleagues. And so during that time, I was thinking, well, music is pretty much everything of my life because that's what I do every day. Private lessons, theory, ear training classes, ensembles, chamber music, everything. And then when I was 12, I think I entered some competitions like regional, and I won, and then went to national, and I got maybe like the second prize. And then after that, there was an audition from the Education Bureau. If you pass that audition, then you were able to go to anywhere in the world to study music. So after I did that, I thought, well, maybe I should just become a musician for my life. And then I went to New York for my high school year. And I thought I was going to go to music, but then I thought, well, maybe there's something else for me. And so when I went to college, I actually have gone to Juilliard, but I decided to leave New York City. I wanted to go to a university. I want to go to a university to see if I can venture out to something else. Even though I love playing music, but I always thought maybe there's something else for me too. And so I went to Indiana University.
Right.
And so I was thinking, so I can venture out to see what else is there for me. So after 2 years, there is an upper divisional. It's kind of like a jury, but it's called upper divisional. And apparently we were told if we don't pass that, then we're out of the music school. So when I passed it, I thought,
no pressure.
No. So I thought since I passed it, I'll stay. So I'll stay. And then after 4 years, and I auditioned for the masters. And I got in and I got a scholarship. So I was like, well, I'll just stay in music. So that's pretty much it. I tried to venture off with something else a few times, but ended up still staying in music.
So did you say you did 2 degrees at IU?
No, I actually did performance, music performance.
Just your bachelor's?
2 degrees. I did a bachelor's and master's.
Okay, so both degrees there. Okay.
Yeah.
And so you were in New York for how long before that?
4.5 years. I went to New York when I was 13. So I went to the high school. It's called LaGuardia High School of the Arts. It's that high school that was performing arts.
It's a famous high school.
Yeah. At the same time, I went to Manhattan School of Music on Saturdays for the prep division. Yeah.
Wow. So you went from New York to Bloomington, and then places before Reading. Well, obviously. So what was your path after Bloomington, getting to where you are now?
When during the 6 years in Bloomington, I met my husband, and then after working for a while, he decided he wanted to go back to school for training for another specialty. So we went to North Carolina. So I was there for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and I was fortunate enough to be placed on the sub list for North Carolina Symphony at the time. So
Oh, really?
it was really fun playing with them. And
So
then
what city were you in there?
we lived in Durham.
You lived in Durham. Okay.
So it was kind of, my husband was doing his training in Chapel Hill.
Mhm.
And so it's close enough. And then for me, it's
Right.
half-hour drive, 40-minute drive to Raleigh. That's where the North Carolina Symphony
Right.
was,
Right.
I mean, is. So that was fun. That was fun. And then we moved to Reading.
Oh, okay. So Reading from North Carolina. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, you
Yeah.
you have had quite the diversity of U.S. states there, especially large metropolitan areas to places like Reading and Bloomington, and really interesting.
Yeah. It was
Do you
good journey.
are there parts of Bloomington and New York and North Carolina and Durham that you miss?
Oh yeah,
Are there? Uh,
definitely.
uh,
I miss the um, I miss the culture in New York City.
mhm. Well, New York has everything. I mean, you want an
Yeah, it has
orchestra.
everything.
Every city block has an orchestra there. So it's
Yeah, and the concert halls, and then all the things
of course.
you can do, and of course, food. You know, being a Chinese background,
Of course.
I love Chinese food. So in New York, it was pretty abundant of Chinese food anywhere I can go to get it.
Oh yeah.
And North Carolina was very, very warm. And people are
Yes.
very warm, and I felt very welcome there.
Good. Good.
It didn't have snow. That's too bad. I don't miss the big bugs that they have there because it's very humid.
Yeah, I lived in North Carolina for a little bit because I taught at Davidson College, and I'm from Nashville though. So, but the things I don't miss about the South are the humidity and the bugs, like you said. So it's
Right.
here in California, I think we're pretty lucky. Even though the Central Valley is pretty hot, it lacks a lot of the things that I didn't like about a lot of the other areas of the country, and that's good.
Right.
So do you have, and maybe you talked about this, but if we can isolate a little bit, do you have one moment in your life or one particular experience that sort of solidified your career path for you, or was it sort of a natural progression?
I would say it's a natural progression.
Okay.
Like I said, I tried several times to go to something else, but I ended up staying in music. I think this is just my true calling.
Right.
So,
Oh, good. And with that, do you have a favorite composer?
that's a really difficult question to answer. It really depends on what stage of my life. I think when I was a teenager, I did not like anything Baroque. I think that's a pretty common phenomenon in young people. I can see that in my students, but because I didn't really understand them very much, and I didn't really like Brahms because I thought Brahms' music was too heavy for me at the time. And even though I'm not a pianist, but I really liked Chopin at the time, and almost all the Chopin pieces I can, even if I cannot name them, I'm familiar with the melodies. Until one day when I was in senior in high school, my sister, who is not a musician but played piano for years, for a few years, she said, "I really love the Brahms violin concerto." I was like, "Really? No, that is really heavy piece." She's like, "No, I really love it. Just listen to it more." So I started paying attention to it, and I actually really fell in love with Brahms after that. And I also love Beethoven, part of it because Beethoven violin concerto, again, because I'm a violinist. So I tend to like a composer starting from what I know, as a violinist. So I would say Brahms and Beethoven the most.
Now, speaking about composers, but as far as violin concerti, do either Brahms or Beethoven have your favorite violin concerto,
Um,
or
yeah,
is your favorite concerto lie with a different composer,
I
or
would
is it
have to
just
say
sort of
I would have to say my favorite concerto is Beethoven Violin Concerto.
okay?
It's it's one of the hardest pieces to play.
Oh, it's a
Not
beast.
Yeah, it's amazingly hard. Not because the technique of getting the notes. It is how you
Octave
execute.
intonation.
Well, that yeah, I mean, yeah, that's hard. But it's.
Yeah.
I remember when I learned that piece in college. When there was a competition on Beethoven Concerto in college,
Mhm.
so I was like learning that piece day and night. And then I was like, oh, I know all the notes now. So what next? My teacher was the one who was telling me, you have to really learn how to vibrate well in Beethoven, because if you don't vibrate well, then Beethoven sounds so boring, because Beethoven is pretty much like scales and arpeggios
Oh yeah.
throughout the whole
Mhm.
piece. So if you don't know how to control your vibrato and different have different timbres, different speeds, the intensity of vibratos, then it's just like you're playing different technique, octaves, broken octaves, arpeggios, and
Exactly.
all that. So that's the first time I really learned how important vibrato helps with musicality, your phrasing. And I did a extensive of analyzing phrasing and all that. So I think the word I will use for Beethoven Violin Concerto is sublime.
Oh, definitely.
That
It
is the
was.
word that comes to my mind. With
It.
any other concertos, I love all the big concertos, but Beethoven just has that special feel to it.
Right. Right. I believe the Beethoven concerto was the first violin concerto I performed as a conductor, and just studying that monumental piece for the first time, and just trying to make sense of all the seeming simplicities in the score, which are not simplicities at all, because it's much like Haydn. You have to connect the dots and figure out how it all fits together, because there's not very much information on the page or on the score. It goes much deeper than that, and it sounds like that's the journey that you've gone through, especially with something as simple, but as something as complicated as vibrato or warming the notes, or how that affects phrasing, and how you put those two things together. Such a fun piece. And I love there are so many moments in the first movement that I love, where he has these repeating figures in either the orchestra or the violin, and these harmonies that are so simple, but just a descending scale, or really there's this dark moment that I'm thinking of. I think it's in the violas or something, but just makes me want to perform the piece again.
Yeah,
What
it's
have
an
you
amazing piece.
have you played it with orchestra?
No, I haven't. It's
Ah,
a beast. See,
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Well,
it's
hopefully sometimes.
maybe I'm a
um,
little bit like this is like I put it on a pedestal, you know,
oh
like
yeah, it's got to be
um,
the right time. Yeah.
it has to be some, yeah, takes a
Well,
lot of
oh yeah. My last question for you is, what is your most memorable concert with the North State Symphony?
oh, um, I'll have to say that our last one, the Saint-Saëns Symphony
Really?
organ.
Hmm.
The reason I say that is because I have known this piece since I was little.
Hmm.
I didn't even know what this piece was. So what happened is when I was in elementary school, my parents had gone to Europe for a tour,
Yeah.
and just to have fun. And then when they came back, they brought several things back. They brought a folding music stand, and then they brought some cassette tapes. I still remember the cassette tapes. And there were some Mozart, Beethoven stuff, and then there was one that's Saint-Saëns
Hmm.
organ symphony. And I just listened to. I habit of listening to music when I go to bed.
Uh-huh.
So I have listened to that so many times in my life, and so every time I hear that piece, is something different, something there.
Right.
And then later, of course, I saw the movie Babe.
Uh-huh.
And Babe was using the melody for it, and that adds more layer to the piece, more meaning to me. So when I heard that we were doing that piece, I was very, very happy, and I think we did a wonderful job. And it was under your direction. I felt it was very satisfying, and it was really good.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that, and you guys played it so wonderfully, and it was so nice to do a piece with an organ, especially the organ sounds that have so much history, especially in Chico and the North State as a whole. And it's been a big debate in the area for a while. But I'm glad that at the very least, that was a concert we could unexpectedly end the season on. Because it was such an epic piece and such a huge final movement and final several minutes. I mean, it's just it's so big and lush, and it's not Mahlerian in respect that everybody's playing, but you have all these different textures. It's more of just reinforcing an idea, and that's what I really like about it. The Babe theme especially. He really pounds it out in that last movement, and I really enjoyed everything about that concert. And it was interesting for me because that was the first time I've conducted the Third Symphony, the organ symphony. I have conducted Symphony Number 1, which is so vastly different. Saint-Saëns, when you go earlier, it's amazing how different for me the Third Symphony is. The Third Symphony is much more, I almost want to say like Brahmsian. It's heavy, it's thick, but it's not overly complex. Like it's very clear in its meaning, I think. But yeah, no, great concert, and I can't wait to be able to do performances like that and repertoire like that again soon. But it looks like we have to start out slowly, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I would love to do that piece again sometime in the future. I think the word comes to mind when I hear that piece is majestic.
Exactly.
Especially the ending. So it's not, like you say, it's not overly complicated. It just feel the grandioso that kind of feeling at the end. It's very, very satisfying.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, that moment, just because it was our last, I look back on it on occasion because we have a clip that we posted on the Symphony's page. But yeah, it's such a great piece, and I can't wait till we're able to do, for example, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, whenever that may be.
Oh yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah. But in the meantime, I hope that you and your family and friends all stay safe and continue to stay balanced through all of this forced isolation. And I can't wait to start piecing together trinkets of a season soon this fall with you, and having some incredible chamber music projects come to life in anticipation for much larger projects in hopefully the near future. But until then, I enjoy the summer months, the summer weeks left in the time we have, and it's been a real pleasure chatting with you, Li-Yuan, and getting to know you a little bit better. And I hope to see you very soon.
Same here.